In the quiet town of Shiloh Ridge, North Carolina, a porch light stayed on every night, a silent beacon of hope for anyone in need. Marianne Dalton believed in second chances. She opened her home to the lost, the broken, the ones society forgot. But on one sweltering August evening, her generosity was repaid with betrayal. A young man she tried to help left behind a scene so horrifying that even seasoned investigators were shaken. This isn't just a story of murder. It's a story of manipulation, buried secrets, and how the very act of kindness can sometimes invite unthinkable danger. Because Marianne wasn't just a victim, and Trevor Lewis wasn't just a boy in need. This is Deadly Affairs, and you're watching. He just needed help, but walked into a trap he'd never escape. The quiet before. Shiloh Ridge was the kind of town where life slowed to a crawl. Its winding roads were hemmed by pine trees and humble homes, where porch swings creaked in the breeze and mailboxes bore the same family names for decades. Marianne Dalton had lived there for nearly 30 years. Widowed young, she had raised her 2 daughters alone, and once they left for college and beyond, she'd found a quiet rhythm in her solitude. She wasn't a recluse. People knew Marianne as the Sunday school teacher, the woman who brought casseroles to funerals, the lady who always left her porch light on. She had a kind heart, especially for people who had stumbled. She let recovering addicts stay on her couch, helped teenagers with nowhere else to go, and handed out sandwiches to those who wandered too far from the shelters in Asheville. But sometimes, kindness walks a thin line with danger. Deirdre's discovery. It was August 25th, 2021, and the North Carolina air was thick with summer's last breath. Deirdre Dalton hadn't heard from her sister in 3 days. That was unusual. Marianne called every morning without fail just to check in. It was their ritual. When the call stopped, Deirdre drove out to 82 Crestline Drive with a feeling she couldn't shake. The screen door creaked open. Inside, the house was still, but not silent. The faint where a ceiling fan stirred the air. The first thing she saw was blood smeared along the hallway wallpaper. Then came the footprints, barefoot and crimson, leading into the kitchen, then back down the hall. Marianne's body was found in her bedroom, naked except for a pair of socks. Her body was sprawled on the floor, blood soaked into the carpet beneath her. Deirdre dropped to her knees. Her screams summoned the neighbors before the 911 dispatcher even picked up. Footsteps and silence. Detective Louise Brennan was the first on scene. He had worked homicides in Shiloh County for 15 years, but rarely seen anything this brutal. No sign of forced entry, he muttered. She let him in. The footprints were strange. They started in the kitchen, trailed to the bedroom, then circled back. But Marianne was still wearing her socks. That meant someone else, likely the killer, had walked barefoot through the carnage. Blood had been splashed, not just spilled. It wasn't a quick attack. Whoever had done this had stayed, moved through the house, maybe even watched her die. A killer's calm. Trevor Lewis had been seen around Crestline Drive the week prior. A neighbor remembered a gray sedan with rust along the bumper. Marianne had introduced him as a young man trying to get back on his feet. When officers brought him in for questioning, he didn't flinch. She let me stay a few nights, gave me water, food. That's all, he said. Detectives noted the cut across his right hand. Thin, sharp, deep. Trevor claimed he got it climbing a fence. But then he changed his story. She wanted help moving furniture. Things got weird. It was a strange phrase, vague, and too rehearsed. The final messages. The breakthrough came from Marianne's phone. Her last text, sent at 9:52 p.m. on August 24th, was to a friend from church. There's a boy here. He's making me uncomfortable. Wish I hadn't said yes. No replies. No further activity after 10:07 p.m. That was likely the time of death. Her friend had assumed she was venting. Later, she told detectives she felt haunted by that oversight. The confession. After 16 hours in the interview room, Trevor cracked. She came out. No clothes. I tried to leave. She blocked the door. I had my knife. I didn't plan to use it, but she kept pushing me. But the crime scene told a different story. Blood on the wall indicated she had been stabbed from behind. Marianne had crawled to her bed, clutching her neck, leaving smears of red as she went. This wasn't self-defense. The bragging cellmate. In jail, Trevor met a cellmate named Corey Denton. A week later, Corey approached the guards with a disturbing revelation. He wasn't scared. He was proud, said she begged him not to leave, called her pathetic, said he wanted to see someone die up close. Corey wasn't just making it up. He provided details about the scene only police knew. That's when the pattern emerged. A trail of shadows. Detectives reviewed unsolved attacks in surrounding towns. In every case, elderly victims were assaulted in their homes. No clear motive, few leads. Trevor had lived in those towns briefly, always couch hopping, always showing up in shelters or small jobs. Never long enough to stand out, but always near chaos. What had looked like a single act of violence might have been part of a darker pattern. The enablers. Sierra Mathis, Trevor's ex-girlfriend, came forward reluctantly. She had gotten a call from Trevor the night of the murder. "If anything happens to me," he had said, "the address is 82 Crestline." He then deleted the text and made her promise to say nothing. He showed up later, shirtless, blood on his jeans. I didn't know what to do. He said his mom told him not to worry. That Marianne probably deserved it. Why didn't she go to police? I was scared, and honestly, I think he enjoyed scaring me. The trial. Trevor Lewis was indicted for first-degree murder. His defense argued extreme emotional disturbance, claiming childhood abuse and trauma. The prosecution leaned into the facts: premeditated behavior, callous aftercare, lack of remorse. Trevor eventually pleaded guilty to manslaughter. Judge Elena Morris called it a disturbing manipulation of a generous heart. You were offered help, shelter, kindness, and you turned it into a crime scene. She sentenced him to 47 years. The town that remembers. Marianne's funeral overflowed. People who hadn't seen her in years came forward with stories of her generosity. She had given rides, made meals, offered her home. Deirdre established a foundation in her name to support women in recovery. She helped. Everyone, Deirdre said, but we have to protect the helpers too. The weight of good intentions. Trevor Lewis wasn't just a troubled boy. He was a predator who knew how to play the part of the lost soul. Marianne saw someone in need and reached out. She didn't know she was inviting danger inside. Her story isn't just about a brutal murder. It's a warning that sometimes the people who need help are the ones most capable of doing harm. Marianne Dalton opened her door out of compassion. Trevor Lewis walked in with darkness trailing behind him. In the end, one woman's kindness met one boy's cruelty, and only one of them walked out alive. But stories like this aren't just about victims and killers. They're about the chilling truth that danger doesn't always knock. Sometimes it waits for an invitation. If this story left you thinking twice about who you trust, you're not alone. Belle, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Deadly Affairs for more real stories where evil hides in plain sight. And remember, not every act of help ends in hope.